6 months ago, or slightly more now, I stood up at the Green Building Council Congress, and I sort of issued a bit of a challenge to the industry and to government to be thinking much more ambitiously about the sort of carbon savings that we could be making from our buildings. And what we should be aiming for is a 50% reduction in the carbon footprint of our buildings by 2020. Now, some people laughed and some people guffawed and some said, yeah, that's doable, but where do you stand on that spectrum?
When we bought it in 2006, it was ground plus 4 upper storeys, approximately 115,000 square feet. We decided to strip back the Grand Island building to its concrete frame, retained only that concrete frame, and then with about 200 tonnes worth of steel work to bolster and stabilise that existing concrete frame, it allowed us to put 2 new floors on the top. Today it stands at just under 180,000 square feet, Grade A, BREEAM Excellent. Very pleasing that when people walk into the building, they've said, having been involved in the project or otherwise, it actually feels like a new building, and that's absolutely what we set out to achieve.
The reason this building is still standing is because it's got a very simple floor plate and a very simple but robust structure, which meant ultimately it was very flexible, it was very adaptable, and yes, we had to put some additional steel and things like that in, but we could add 2 more floors and we could infill parts of the structure and move the floor plate out and get a building that was commercially attractive to us, and actually meant you didn't take on all that extra carbon, both dropping this building and carting it off-site and then bringing all the materials to site to build another building. And the goal that we jointly seek to achieve on that was to create a building that had everything a new building would have plus more, basically, because it's a wider site, and this building acts as a catalyst for future development site-wide.
Well, how did we get post-construction BREEAM Excellent? Fundamentally, the reuse of the existing building. Had we had to create new materials and bring new materials to site, it would have been very difficult to do that. Biodiversity, this building's got an extensive green roof. We've put in a very efficient heating and cooling system, and I'll come on to that, but it's a water-based VRF system that's allowed us to incorporate a geothermal borehole array at a later date that we've just completed. Rainwater harvesting and ecology, of course, very important. I mentioned the green roof. We also have a rainwater harvesting attenuation tank on this building that's not insignificant in size. We can use that to water the public realm. There is a proposal for green walls to the rear of the building.
But I gather, we haven't reached the end of the story for this building. You're already looking at adding some additional technologies, not just to this building, but as the site develops, linking up the energy supply for different buildings. Is that right?
For this building, the boreholes are a case in point, which are being connected as we speak. The building was developed with the ability to connect into the building at some stage when funding was available. That funding became available last year, and this year we've put 36 boreholes in. And that's the sort of forward thinking that helps to hit those 50% targets. And as we move forward, things like combined heat and power, rainwater harvesting strategies, pollution. We've talked about the issue of remediation, and that still will happen on other parts of the site, because predominantly the north was remediated, but there are still some parts of the site, the south of the site. So it's just getting a plan in place that's flexible and adaptable as changing needs and changing development types, whether it's retail, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential.
You've got to have targets, and they have to be a stretch target, albeit achievable. With this particular building, for instance, and thinking as a developer, you're constantly looking towards the end users, the occupiers, the purchasers, because to reach those kind of levels of target require an investment by the landlord and the owner, but also by the end user. I think the real value, particularly in today's challenging market, in trying to deliver green and sustainable projects, is by demonstrating to the end users savings in cost and use, savings in energy, particularly in the energy price fluctuations that we've seen recently. So, yes, achievable, but absolutely key that the end user is bought into the whole process.